It was a Wednesday afternoon in late October, with a fine cold rain needling the brownstone windows and making the street look like something that ought to have been left unpaved. Wolfe was in the office, sunk behind his desk with his eyes half shut, which is as near to idleness as he ever gets without surrendering consciousness. I was at mine, clearing correspondence and wondering whether Fritz could be induced to improve supper without Wolfe detecting influence, when the doorbell rang. I went to answer it because that is one of the things I'm for. On the stoop stood a woman in a dark coat with rain on the shoulders and a face that had decided not to ask favors, though it had been driven to one. She was around 35, maybe a year or two either way, with level gray eyes and a mouth too firm for ornament. And she gave me my name before I gave her a chance to ask. "Mr. Goodwin, I'm Helen Vardis. I wrote yesterday. I was told Mr. Wolfe had not declined." "That," I said, "is the nearest thing to an invitation he ever issues. Come in." She entered as if she were stepping aboard a boat she distrusted. In the office, she took the red leather chair and looked at Wolfe once, directly, which saved time. He opened his eyes and surveyed her, then shifted them to me. "Archie, the memorandum." I got it from the pad on my desk and read it aloud. "Helen Vardis, Director of Internal Operations for Belden House Galleries, requested a confidential consultation concerning a private security irregularity and a matter involving no police complaint as yet." That had interested me, because people who mention the police before calling them usually want rescue or strategy. Wolfe grunted. "Proceed, madam." She clasped her gloves in her lap without looking at them. 3 nights ago, a locked room in my apartment was opened from inside. I let that sit a second. Wolfe's eyes narrowed by a fraction, which in him is equal to another man leaping up and upsetting furniture. "Explain yourself," he said. "It is my study. I live alone. The room has one door, one window facing an air shaft, and no second exit. I locked it before leaving for dinner with friends. When I returned, the door was closed and still locked. Inside, a cabinet had been opened, papers disturbed, and one item removed." "What item?" I asked. "A brass key." Wolfe moved a finger against the arm of his chair. "You're certain it was removed then?" "Yes, as I had checked for it that morning." "And how," Wolfe asked, "was the room opened from inside?" Miss Vardis looked at him squarely. "Because the bolt was thrown. That did it. Even I stopped leaning. A lock can be picked, a key can be copied, a servant can be bribed, and a lie can be told. But a bolt set on the inside presents complications." She went on. "When the locksmith came the next day, he told me the lock had not been forced. The door had been opened normally, but when I found it that night, the inner bolt was engaged. He said no one outside the room could have done that." Wolfe's lips pushed forward a 1/4 inch. "Pfui. Either the locksmith is a fool, or you have brought me something intolerably interesting." I said, "If you're here to sell us a ghost, Miss Vardis, you're underpricing it. And we don't handle apparitions unless they pay in advance." She ignored me, which I respected. "I'm not suggesting anything supernatural. I'm stating what was observed. The bolt was set. The key was gone." Wolfe turned his head an inch toward me. "Archie." "Yes, sir. Bolt engaged. No sign of force. Missing brass key. Locksmith says impossible. Client says inevitable. That leaves us with either a liar, a trick, or a better locksmith." Miss Vardis's mouth tightened. "There is more. The key that was taken does not belong to the apartment." Wolfe's eyes opened fully. That was something. "Continue." "It opens a storage vault at Belden House, a private one. It is not listed on our inventory system." I leaned back. "So we have a hidden vault, a missing key, and a door that behaves like it's got opinions. You're right, this is not for the police, since they would insist on facts." She met that without flinching. "The vault contains documents entrusted to us by a private client. Their exposure would be damaging to several people." Names, Wolfe said. I will give them if you accept the case. Wolfe closed his eyes again, which meant he was thinking hard enough to economize on sight. You have not told me why you came to me instead of securing your premises and dismissing the matter as theft. Because the person who took the key knew the bolt would be set. That landed. I felt it, and so did Wolfe. He opened his eyes again, slower this time. You are asserting, he said, that the act was arranged in such a way as to advertise impossibility. Yes. And that, Wolfe said softly, is either arrogance or a message. Exactly, I said, or a performance for an audience of one. You. She nodded once. I believe so. Wolfe shifted in his chair, which for him is equivalent to pacing. Who has access to your apartment? No one. I have a cleaning service once a week, supervised. The building staff are vetted. I changed the locks 6 months ago. And who knows of the key in the vault? 4 people besides myself. List them. She did. Gerald Pike, our senior curator. Daniel Kroll, external security consultant. Lila Mercer, acquisitions specialist. And Victor Dane, the client who placed the documents in our custody. I wrote them down. Any of them been to your apartment? Pike has, once for a dinner. Mercer, never. Kroll inspected the building after a minor theft last year. Dane has not been there. Minor theft, I said. What kind? Nothing of consequence. A framed sketch went missing from a storage corridor and reappeared 2 days later in a different location. Reappeared, I said. That's a hobby. Wolfe ignored me. This Victor Dane, what is his occupation? He invests in distressed assets. Companies, properties, reputations? Reputations, I asked. Yes, I whistled softly. So he buys trouble cheap and sells it expensive. That is one way to describe it. Wolfe steepled his fingers. And the documents? I cannot describe them in detail, but they concern past transactions of a sensitive nature. Illicit. Not strictly illegal, she said, but compromising. Wolfe nodded once. Very well. Archie, you will accompany Miss Vardis to her apartment. You will examine the door, the lock, the window, the room. You will speak with the building staff, and you will then proceed to Belden House and observe the vault in question. Do not touch anything you cannot account for. Yes, sir, and if I meet a ghost, should I offer it lunch? Offer it nothing. Ghosts are notoriously ungrateful. Miss Vardis rose. You will take the case? Wolfe's gaze settled on her. I will consider it taken. My fee will be substantial. I expected that. Good. Archie will begin immediately. I got my coat and hat, and we went out into the rain which had decided to commit to the afternoon. In the cab she sat straight, hands folded, eyes forward. I gave her a minute and then said, You said the bolt was set. Describe it. A standard interior slide bolt. Steel. It sits above the handle. When engaged, it prevents the door from opening regardless of the lock. No tricks, no string, no spring, no clever carpenter's joke. None that I installed. Who installed it? The previous tenant. I kept it. Why? She hesitated. I like certainty. I nodded. That makes 2 of us. Only I like it where I can see it. Her building was on East 62nd, respectable without being proud of it. The doorman knew her and looked at me without approval, but with tolerance. We went up, and she let us in. The apartment was neat, spare, and arranged by someone who preferred function to display. She led me to the study. The door was plain oak, the kind that minds its business. The lock was a good one, recently installed, and the bolt sat above it, solid and honest-looking. I closed the door, engaged the bolt, and tried it. It held as expected. Show me, I said. She unlocked it, opened it, and we went in. room was small, with a desk and a cabinet and shelves. The window looked into a narrow air shaft that would discourage even a determined cat. I checked it anyway. It was latched with no marks. "The cabinet," she said. I opened it. Inside were folders, arranged with care that had been disturbed and then restored by someone who respected order enough to imitate it. One space was empty. That's where the key was? Yes, loose, in a small box. No box now. It was replaced, empty. I found it. A simple wooden thing, nothing to write home about. I turned it over, then put it back. "Anyone else see this after you found it?" The locksmith. "No one else?" "No." I went back to the door. I closed it, engaged the bolt, then opened the window and looked down the shaft. 4 floors, brick, pipes, and no footholds worth mentioning. "You said the door was locked when you returned?" "Yes." "And the bolt was set?" "Yes." "Did you have to disengage the bolt to enter?" "Yes." "So whoever left the room after taking the key managed to set the bolt behind them. That is the problem." I grinned without humor. "No, that's the advertisement." She looked at me. "Meaning?" "Meaning whoever did it wanted you to know it couldn't be done, which means they knew you would call someone who would say it could. And that would be Mr. Wolfe, or me, if he was feeling lazy." She almost smiled, then didn't. "What does that imply?" "It implies," I said, "that this isn't just about a key. It's about who gets to define what's possible. And right now, someone is trying to write the rules." She absorbed that without comment, which told me she had already been thinking along the same lines and didn't care for the company. I gave the room another slow circuit, not because I expected the walls to confess, but because sometimes they get nervous and drop something. The desk was clean except for a blotter, a pen stand, and a stack of correspondence tied with a ribbon that meant it had been read and judged. The shelves held reference books, most of them on art handling, cataloging, and security protocols. Nothing flashy, nothing personal. A room built for use, not comfort. "Walk me through your evening," I said. "I left at 7. I locked the study door, tested it, and went out. I returned at 11. The apartment door was as I left it. No sign of entry. I went to the study, unlocked it, and when I opened the door, I saw the cabinet ajar. And the bolt? It was engaged. I had to slide it back before I could open the door fully. You didn't hear anything when you came in?" "No." "Neighbors?" I spoke to the woman across the hall. She heard nothing unusual. "Building staff?" "The doorman was on duty all evening. He saw no one unfamiliar." I nodded. "And the locksmith?" "He came the next morning. He examined the lock and the bolt. He said both were in working order and showed no signs of tampering." "Name?" "Elias Brenner." "Address?" She gave it to me. I wrote it down. "Good, I'll pay him a visit. Now, Belden House." She hesitated again, just enough to be noticeable. "Yes." We left the study, and I took a look at the apartment door on the way out. Solid, double-locked, no nonsense, and either someone had a key or someone had a talent. I wasn't ready to vote. The cab ride to Belden House took us downtown through traffic that behaved like it had been insulted personally. The gallery occupied a narrow building with a respectable front and a sign that didn't shout. Inside, the air was cool and careful, the kind that keeps paintings from aging and people from relaxing. We were met by a man in his 50s with a face that had learned to distrust enthusiasm. He wore a suit that fit too well to be accidental. "Miss Vardis," he said, "you've returned." "Mr. Pike," she said. "This is Archie Goodwin." He gave me a look that weighed me and found me wanting, which I returned with interest. "We're not open to visitors at this hour," he said. "Mr. Goodwin is here on my authority," she said. "Your authority," he repeated, and as if testing it for cracks. "That is sufficient." He stepped aside. "Very well. Briefly." We went past a series of rooms where paintings hung with the confidence of things that had survived other owners. Pike walked with us, not because he was helpful, but because he was cautious. "The vault," Miss Vardis said. Pike stopped. "Is that necessary?" "Yes." He looked at me again. "And this gentleman?" "Will observe," she said. Pike's mouth tightened. "This is irregular." "So is a door that bolts itself," I said. He didn't like that. Good. He led us down a short corridor to a door that looked ordinary enough to be ignored, which is the best disguise anything ever had. He unlocked it with a key from his ring, then stepped aside. "After you," he said. We entered a small room with steel shelving and a safe set into the wall. The safe door was open. Inside were several boxes, each labeled with a code rather than a name. "The vault," Miss Vardis said. I moved closer, keeping my hands where they belonged. "Which box?" She pointed. "That one." I looked. The box was closed, the seal intact. "And the key opens this?" "Yes." "And without the key?" "It cannot be opened without damage." I glanced at Pike. "Anyone else have access?" "No," he said. "Only Miss Vardis and myself." "And Mr. Kroll?" I asked. "He advises. He does not access." "Ms. Mercer. She handles acquisitions, not storage. And Mr. Dane?" "He is a client," Pike said. "He does not handle our keys." "Clients handle a lot of things," I said. "Mostly other people." Pike's eyes sharpened. "What is this about?" Miss Vardis answered. "A key was taken from my apartment." Pike went still. "When?" 3 nights ago. "And you are telling me now." "I'm telling you now." He looked at the box again, then at the safe as if expecting it to object. "Has it been opened?" "No." "Are you certain?" "Yes." He exhaled slowly. "Then perhaps the matter is not as grave as—" "It is grave," I said, "because whoever took the key didn't use it. Not yet." Pike's gaze came back to me. "And that suggests—" "That suggests they are waiting," I said, "or they are setting the stage." "For what?" "For something that requires you to be exactly where you are now." "Uncertain." He didn't answer that. He didn't have to. I took a closer look at the safe door, the hinges, the dial. No scratches, no marks, no complaints. I checked the floor, the walls, the ceiling, all of which behaved like surfaces that had nothing to hide. Which is when I start to get suspicious. "Who knew about the vault?" I asked. Pike hesitated, then said, "We are discreet." "That's not an answer." "It is the only one you will get." Miss Vardis said, "Gerald—" He cut her off. "No, we do not expand this circle." I looked at him and smiled a little. "You don't have a circle, Mr. Pike. You have a leak. You just don't know where it is yet." His jaw tightened. "If you have concluded your inspection—" "Almost," I said. "One more thing. 3 nights ago, where were you?" "In my home," he said. "Alone. Anyone confirm that?" "No." "Convenient," I said. His eyes flashed. "I will not be interrogated in my own establishment." "Then don't answer," I said, "but don't expect me to stop asking." Miss Vardis stepped in. "That will be all for now." Pike gave her a look that promised a conversation later and then turned away. We left the vault, and I felt the weight of it follow us, not because of what was inside, but because of what wasn't. A missing key is a problem. A missing use for it is a plan. Outside, in the cooler air of the gallery, I said, "You've got 4 names. Which one do you trust least?" She didn't hesitate. "Daniel Kroll." "Why?" "He understands systems. He enjoys breaking them." I nodded. "Good. I'll start with him. But I'm not crossing the others off the list." "Not yet." "Nor am I," she said. We went back out into the evening where the rain had eased, but the city hadn't. As we got into the cab, I had the feeling that somewhere, not very far away, Someone was watching a clock and waiting for it to agree with them. But I had the cab drop Miss Vardis at her building and told the driver to keep going. If Kroll liked braking systems, I wanted to see what kind of door he preferred to walk through. His office address was in Midtown, the kind of place where security consultants hang out signs that promise safety and deliver invoices. The building was glass and steel, with a lobby that smelled like polished money. I gave the desk my name, and they gave me a look that said they didn't have a category for me but would allow the exception. Upstairs, Kroll's office occupied a corner suite with windows that suggested he liked seeing exits. He was younger than I expected, early 40s, with a face that had been assembled for efficiency, and then left that way. No wasted lines, no softness. He stood when I came in, not out of courtesy, but to control the distance. "Mr. Goodwin," he said, "I was told you might come." "That saves me the trouble of surprising you," I said. "Mind if I sit?" "Please." I took the chair across from his desk and watched him settle back, hands folded, eyes steady. He had the look of a man who enjoyed problems the way some people enjoy games, which is fine until you realize you might be one of the pieces. "You consult for Belden House," I said. "I do." "On what?" "Security protocols, risk assessment, access control." "Access control?" I repeated. "That's a nice phrase. Sounds like it keeps doors honest." He didn't smile. "It keeps people predictable. I've met a few who didn't read the manual." "So have I." I leaned back. 3 nights ago, a locked study was entered, a key was taken, and the door was left bolted from the inside. You hear about that?" "I have now," he said. "Miss Vardis didn't call you?" "No." "That disappoint you?" "Should it?" "It depends on whether you like being consulted after the fact." "I prefer to be consulted before," he said. "But I work with what I'm given." "Good. Work with this. A bolt engaged from inside. No sign of tampering, no witnesses, no noise." "How do you do it?" He considered me for a moment, not answering, just measuring. "There are methods," he said finally. "Most of them require preparation." "Such as?" "Knowledge of the door, the hardware, the room, time to arrange something that can be triggered remotely or passively." "Like what?" "A filament, a magnet, a weighted mechanism. Something that can slide the bolt after the door's closed." "From outside?" "Yes. Without leaving a trace." He spread his hands a fraction, as if done well. "And if done poorly?" "Then you find the trace?" "I didn't," I said. "Then it was done well." I watched him. "You've done it." He met my gaze without blinking. "I've demonstrated vulnerabilities in controlled environments." "Controlled," I said. "That's comforting." "It should be." "It isn't," I said. "Because this wasn't controlled. This was a message." "That is your interpretation." "It's the only one that fits," I said. "Unless you think someone wanted the key and decided to make a puzzle out of it for exercise." He didn't answer that. He didn't have to. "Where were you 3 nights ago?" I asked. "In my office until 8. Then at home." "Anyone confirm that?" "My assistant saw me leave. After that, no." "Another convenient evening," I said. "Convenience is often a matter of perspective." "Sure," I said. "From mine, you're a man who knows how to move bolts from a distance and had no alibi worth framing." "And from mine," he said, "you're a man who asks direct questions and expects indirect answers." "I'll take either, as long as they're useful." He leaned forward slightly. "What is it you think was taken?" "A key," I said. "Brass. Opens a private vault." His eyes didn't change, but something behind them adjusted. "Interesting. You didn't know about the vault?" "I advise on general systems," he said. "I'm not privy to every detail." "Of course not," I said. "That would make you responsible." "I am responsible for what I am told." he said. Nothing more. Nothing less, I said. Who else knew about the vault? I wouldn't know. You wouldn't ask? I'm paid to assess risk, not curiosity. Funny, I said. Most risks start as curiosity. He let that pass. What do you want from me, Mr. Goodwin? Right now, a reason to cross you off my list. And if I can't provide one, then you stay on it, I said. And I keep asking questions until something breaks. Be careful what you break, he said. Some systems don't reset cleanly. I stood up. That's why I bring a professional. He didn't ask which one. He knew. On my way out, I stopped at the reception desk. Your boss, I said to the assistant, a young woman with sharp eyes and a sharper pen. What time did he leave 3 nights ago? She glanced up. Around 8. Alone? Yes. Anyone come in to see him that evening? No appointments, she said. He doesn't take walk-ins. Deliveries. A courier at 6:30. Documents. From where? I don't know. Of course not, I said. Thanks. Back on the street, I took a minute under the awning to let the rain decide what it wanted to be. Kroll had given me methods, which was something and nothing else, which was also something. He could have done it. So could someone who had listened to him long enough. I checked my notes. Pike, Kroll, Mercer, Dane. 4 names, 1 missing key, and a door that had behaved like it had been instructed. I headed for the address Miss Vardis had given me for Lila Mercer. If Kroll liked breaking systems, maybe Mercer liked slipping through them. Either way, I wasn't going back to Wolfe with a theory, and no spine. He preferred his puzzles with structure, and right now this one was still deciding what it wanted to be. Lila Mercer lived in a building that tried harder than it needed to, which usually means the tenants don't. The lobby had chrome where wood would have done, and a doorman who looked like he had been hired for posture. He called upstairs, got clearance, and sent me up with the kind of look that says, if anything goes wrong, it will be your fault. Her apartment door opened before I knocked twice. She stood there in a loose grey sweater and black trousers, hair pulled back in a way that suggested she preferred control, but allowed for exceptions. She looked me over once, efficiently. Archie Goodwin, she said. I was told you might call. That's becoming a habit, I said. Do I look predictable? No, she said, sir, but the situation does. Come in. The apartment was arranged like a thought that had been edited down to essentials. Clean lines, no clutter, a few pieces of art that didn't shout, but didn't apologize either. She motioned me to a chair and took one opposite, crossing her legs with a kind of precision that made it seem like a decision, not a habit. You work acquisitions, I said. Yes. For Belden House? Yes. Which means you find things other people don't know they want yet. Or things they want and can't admit, she said. Either way, you deal in appetite. I deal in value, she corrected. Same thing if you wait long enough. She let that pass. What do you want, Mr. Goodwin? 3 nights ago, I said, a study door was opened, a key was taken, and the door was left bolted from the inside. I heard, she said. Miss Vardis called me this morning. Before or after she called Wolfe? After. Interesting, I said. What did she want from you? To know if I had mentioned the vault to anyone. And had you? No. Never? Never. I watched her. You're good at that. At what? Saying no without leaving fingerprints. Her eyes cooled a degree. Is that a compliment? It's an observation, I said. Where were you 3 nights ago? At a dinner, she said, with clients. Names? 2 collectors from Chicago, and Gerald Pike. That got my attention. Pike? Yes. Convenient, I said. For whom? For anyone who likes their suspects to overlap, I said. What time did that break up? 10:30. And after? I went home. Alone? Yes. Anyone confirm that? No. Another evening of privacy, I said. New York is full of them. It's one of its better qualities. Depends on what you're hiding, I said. She didn't react. I assume you've spoken to Mr. Pike. I have. And Mr. Kroll? Yes. And now me, she said, which leaves Mr. Dane. You're ahead of me, I said. I prefer not to be behind anyone, she said. Except when you are, I said. Tell me about Dane. He is careful, she said. He does not trust easily. He pays well to ensure that his interests are protected. And what are those interests? Discretion, she said. Discretion is a nice word for secrets, I said. It is a necessary one, she said. In our business. In any business worth having, I said. Did he know about the vault? Yes. And the key? I don't know. You didn't ask. It was not my place. Place is a flexible concept, I said. You've been known to stretch it. Her mouth curved slightly. So I've been told. 3 nights ago, I said. You were at dinner with Pike until 10:30. That puts both of you out of Miss Vardis's apartment when the key was taken. Assuming your timeline is correct, she said. It is, I said. I like my clocks to agree with each other. And Mr. Kroll? He says he was in his office until 8, then home. And you believe him? I believe he knows how to move a bolt without touching it, I said. That's not the same thing. And you think I do not? I think you know how to move people, I said. Which is sometimes easier. She leaned back slightly. What do you think this is about, Mr. Goodwin? A message, I said. One that says someone can reach into a locked room, take what they want, and leave behind a question no one can answer without help. And the help is Mr. Wolfe. Or the idea of him, I said, which is sometimes enough. She studied me for a moment. And what does that achieve? It changes the game, I said. It makes everyone react. It pulls people out of position. Position, she repeated. You speak like Mr. Kroll. I've been known to borrow a phrase, I said. Do you like him? As much as one can like a man who measures everything, she said. And Pike? He is traditional, she said. He values control. And you? I value outcomes, she said. Even if they cost someone else control? Especially then, she said. I nodded. That's honest. I try not to waste time on anything else. Good, I said. Then don't waste mine. Did you take the key? No. Do you know who did? No. Do you know why? She hesitated, just enough. No. I stood up. You almost did. She didn't deny it. If I did, I would not tell you. Of course not, I said. That would be inefficient. I moved toward the door, then stopped. One more thing. That minor theft at Belden House. The sketch that went missing and reappeared. Yes? You know anything about that? Her eyes flickered. Quick as a thought she didn't want to share. No. Another clean answer, I said. You're consistent. I make an effort. I left her with that and went back out into the hall, where the building's ambition felt a little thinner. Mercer had given me something, not in what she said, but in what she nearly said. There was a shape to it now, not clear yet, but present. Back on the street, I checked the time and headed for the address on my list that mattered most. Victor Dane. If Mercer dealt in outcomes and Kroll in systems, Dane dealt in consequences. And somewhere between them, a key had been taken and a door had been made to lie. By the time I reached his building, the rain had stopped pretending to be polite. The doorman didn't smile when I gave my name, but he didn't argue either. Upstairs, the hallway was quiet in the way money prefers. I rang the bell and waited. When the door opened, the man who stood there looked like he had never been surprised by anything in his life and didn't intend to start. Mr. Goodwin, he said. Mr. Dane, I said. I hear you're a man who buys problems. I acquire opportunities, he said. Same thing, I said, depending on how they end. He stepped aside. Come in, let us see how this one concludes. I went in and took the chair he indicated, which was placed just far enough from his desk to remind a man he was a visitor and not a participant. Victor Dane sat opposite me, hands resting lightly on the arms, posture relaxed without being careless. He had the kind of face that didn't need expression to make a point. You've been busy, he said. I try not to waste daylight, I said. It gets dark anyway. And you have questions? I always do, I said. The trick is deciding which ones matter. And have you decided? Some, I said. Enough to start with you. He inclined his head a fraction. I'm flattered. You shouldn't be, I said. It's not personal, it's structural. That is how most things begin, he said. Go on. You placed documents in a private vault at Belden House, I said. You trusted Miss Vardis and a system to keep them secure. I did. A key to that vault was kept in her apartment. So I understand. It was taken 3 nights ago. Yes. You weren't informed immediately. No. That bother you? He considered it. It interests me. Interest is a polite word, I said. Most men in your position would call it something else. Most men in my position would not be in my position, he said. Fair, I said. Do you know what was in the documents? I do. Care to share? No. Expected, I said. Do you know who else knew about the vault? I assumed the circle was small. It was, I said. Miss Vardis, Pike, Kroll, Mercer, and you. And now you, he said. And Wolfe, I said, which changes the arithmetic. It often does, he said. I leaned forward slightly. 3 nights ago. Where were you? At a dinner, he said. Another one, I said. This city eats well. With 2 associates, he said. We concluded at 9. Names, he gave them. I wrote them down. After that, I returned home. Alone? Yes. Anyone confirm that? No. That's becoming a pattern, I said. You all like your evenings unobserved. It is a useful habit, he said. Especially if you want to move around without leaving a trail, I said. He looked at me steadily. Do you believe I took the key? I believe you had reason, I said. Means is a separate question. And what reason would that be? To control the timing, I said. If those documents are as sensitive as Miss Vardis suggests, having the key without using it gives you leverage. Leverage over whom? Everyone, I said. Miss Vardis, for one. Pike, for another. Kroll, because he failed. Mercer, because she didn't see it coming. You could wait until the moment suited you and then open the vault or threaten to. He didn't move, but the air around him shifted a degree. You credit me with patience. I credit you with strategy, I said. Patience comes with it. And the method? He asked. Do you also credit me with the ability to manipulate bolts at a distance? I credit you with the ability to hire someone who can, I said. Such as Mr. Kroll. Such as, I said. He let that sit. And yet you came here. I go where the structure leads, I said. Right now it leads through you. And where does it go after that? Back to Wolfe, I said. He likes to arrange things. I imagine he does, Dane said. And what will you tell him? That everyone had motive, I said. Opportunity is more selective, and method belongs to someone who wanted to be noticed. Noticed, he repeated. That is an interesting choice. It's the only one that fits, I said. If you wanted the key quietly, you'd take it quietly. You wouldn't leave a puzzle behind. And if the puzzle is the point, he asked. Then the key is secondary, I said. Which means the documents are bait. For whom? For Wolfe, I said. That hung there. He didn't smile, but something in his eyes acknowledged the move. "And do you think I would construct such a scenario?" he asked. "I think you would appreciate it," I said. "Whether you built it or not is another matter." He stood then, not abruptly, just enough to change the angle of the conversation. "Mr. Goodwin, you are describing a game in which everyone is both player and piece." "That's most games worth playing," I said. And you?" he said. "What are you?" "I'm the one who tells Wolfe where to look," I said. "He decides what it means." "And if it means you are wrong?" "Then I learned something," I said, "and he tells me about it." Dane walked to the window and looked out at the city, which was doing its usual job of pretending it knew what it was doing. "The documents in that vault," he said, "represent leverage, as you put it. Not just for me, for others. If they were exposed, certain arrangements would become untenable, which makes them valuable," I said. "And dangerous," he said. "Same thing," I said, "depending on who's holding them." He turned back. "If someone wished to destabilize those arrangements without immediately revealing their hand, your scenario would be effective." "Thank you," I said. "I try." "But it assumes," he said, "either the person is willing to invite scrutiny or control it," I said. "If you know how Wolfe works, you can anticipate his moves. You can feed him just enough to keep him interested and guide him where you want." "And do you think someone is doing that now?" he asked. "I think someone wants him involved," I said. "That much is clear." "And you think that someone is in that circle of four?" "I think it's someone who knows about the vault, understands the value of the documents, and has access, direct or indirect, to Miss Vardis's apartment." "And you have eliminated no one," he said. "Not yet," I said. "That would be premature." He nodded once. "Then you will return to your employer." "Not before one more stop," I said. "Where?" "The locksmith," I said. "Elias Brenner. He looked at that door and said it couldn't be done, and I want to hear how certain he was." Dane's expression didn't change. "Certainty is often the weakest part of any system." "I know," I said. "That's why I test it." I stood. "One more thing, Mr. Dane. If those documents were opened without your consent, what would you do?" He didn't hesitate. "I would ensure that whoever did it regretted the decision. Legal or otherwise," I said. He met my eyes. "Effective." "Good," I said. "That gives us a clock." "A clock?" "Yes," I said. "Because whoever took that key knows exactly how long they have before you decide to stop waiting. And you think they are watching that clock as well." "I know they are," I said. "The question is what they plan to do when it runs out." I left him with that and went back out into the night, which had settled into something quieter but no less serious. The city had that look it gets when things are moving under the surface and no one is admitting it yet. Elias Brenner's shop was a few blocks over, a narrow place with a window full of locks that had seen better days and keys that had seen too many. The sign was old, the kind that didn't need to advertise because it had already been found. I went in. A bell rang, and a man came out from the back, wiping his hands on a cloth. He was in his 60s, with eyes that had spent a lifetime deciding what could and couldn't be opened. "Help you?" he said. "Elias Brenner," I asked. "That's me." "Archie Goodwin. I hear you looked at a door 3 nights ago and told someone it couldn't be opened the way it was." He frowned slightly. "I don't like being misquoted." "Then let's get it right," I said. "What did you tell her?" He studied me a moment. He then said, "I told her the lock was fine, no damage, no signs of picking. And the bolt—" He paused. "Yes," I said. "The bolt," he said slowly, "was not as simple as it looked." I said, "That's a comforting thought, Mr. Brenner. I was beginning to suspect the laws of physics had taken a night off." He didn't smile. Men who make their living with mechanisms tend to keep humor under control. It wasn't the bolt itself, he said. It was the plate. Which plate? The strike plate, he said, where the bolt slides in. It had been altered. How? Filed, he said. Just a fraction, enough to change the way the bolt catches. I leaned on the counter. Explain it to me like I'm a reasonably bright amateur with a taste for trouble. He gave me a look that suggested he had met my type before and survived. Normally, because when you slide a bolt into place, it drops into a fixed recess. Solid. To move it back, you have to slide it out from inside, but if you shave the edge of the recess just so, you can make it possible for the bolt to be pushed back out by pressure from the door closing. From the outside, I said. Yes, without touching it. If the alignment is right, he said, and if the bolt is not too tight. And in this case, he said, it had been done carefully. Not something you improvise. I let that settle. So the door could be opened from the outside, the key taken, and when the door was closed again, the bolt could slide into place on its own. Or be pushed into place by a slight pull and release, he said. There are variations. But no ghost, I said. No ghost, he agreed. And no impossible trick, I said. No, he said. Just a good one. I nodded. And the alteration? Fresh? He hesitated. Not fresh enough to smell, if that's what you mean. But not old either. The filing marks were clean. Could it have been done weeks ago? Yes. Months? Less likely, he said. Where would show? So someone prepared that door, I said. In advance. Yes. Without Miss Vardis noticing. That depends on how closely she looks at her hardware, he said. She looks closely at most things, I said. Which means whoever did it either had access when she wasn't looking or knew exactly what to do and did it fast. Or both, he said. I straightened. You told her any of this? I told her the bolt could be made to behave differently, he said. She didn't ask how. People often don't, I said. They prefer mystery to method. It makes for better stories, he said. Not for Wolfe, I said. He likes his stories with parts that fit. Brenner grunted. Then he'll like this one. I thanked him and stepped back out onto the street, where the air had that damp, metallic smell that comes after rain has finished arguing with the pavement. The picture had shifted. No more impossibility, just preparation, which meant someone had been in that apartment before the night of the theft and had taken the time to adjust the bolt. I walked a block before hailing a cab. As it pulled into traffic, I went over it. Access to the apartment, knowledge of the bolt, enough time and skill to file a strike plate without leaving a mess. And then, on the night itself, the nerve to go in, take the key, and then leave behind a trick that would point straight at a method. Kroll knew how. Mercer knew how to move unnoticed. Pike had been in the apartment once. Dane had resources, and Miss Vardis had certainty, which sometimes is the easiest thing to exploit. By the time I reached the brownstone, I had enough to keep Wolfe occupied and not enough to satisfy him, which is the usual condition. Fritz answered my ring with a look that said dinner had opinions about my timing. I told him to hold them and went to the office. Wolfe was where I had left him, which is to say he had not moved more than an inch in my absence. But the room felt different. The air was tighter, as if it had been listening. Well, he said. I sat down and gave it to him, start to finish. The apartment, the boat, Brenner's explanation, Belden House, Pike, Kroll, Mercer, Dane. And I didn't rush it, and I didn't decorate it. Wolfe doesn't like garnish. When I was done, he closed his eyes and let it sit. A full minute passed, which is a long time when you're waiting for a man who charges by the thought. Finally, he spoke. The bolt was prepared in advance. Yes. Therefore, the perpetrator anticipated the need to create the illusion of impossibility, or inevitability, I said. He ignored that. Who had access to Miss Vardis's apartment prior to the incident? Pike, once. Kroll, for an inspection. Cleaning staff. Supervised. No one else. Supervised, Wolfe said. A comforting word, often inaccurate. Agreed, I said. But the filing was precise. That's not something a cleaner does between dusting and vacuuming. No, Wolfe said. It suggests knowledge and intent. Kroll possesses both. He also possesses the sense not to advertise his work, I said. Unless, Wolfe said, the advertisement is the point. I smiled. We're back to that. We never left it, he said. The question is not who could perform the act, but who benefits from the perception of impossibility. Dane, I said. Leverage. Perhaps, Wolfe said, but Mr. Dane is patient. He would not risk exposure for theatrics unless the reward justified it. Mercer, I said. She likes outcomes. She likes control, Wolfe said. But this maneuver relinquishes control in favor of uncertainty. Pike, I said. He values control too. He lacks imagination, Wolfe said. This requires a certain flair. Kroll, I said. Wolfe opened his eyes. He understands systems. He understands how to manipulate them and how others perceive them. That he would know that by creating an apparent impossibility, he introduces himself as a necessary interpreter. Meaning he becomes essential, I said. The man who can explain the trick. Or prevent the next one, Wolfe said. A lucrative position. I leaned back. So he rigs the bolt in advance, waits for the right moment, takes the key, and leaves the door bolted to create a problem only he can solve. Unless, Wolfe said, he miscalculates. About what? About me, Wolfe said. I grinned. That happens. He ignored it. Archie, we will require Mr. Saul Panzer. That means you're serious, I said. I'm always serious, Wolfe said. But now I'm also interested. That's worse, I said. Indeed, he said. Saul will investigate Mr. Kroll's movements, associations, and finances. Thus you will revisit Miss Vardis's apartment and speak with the building staff in greater detail, specifically the cleaning service. Looking for access before the night of the theft, I said. Precisely, Wolfe said. Additionally, you will arrange for all 4 principals to attend here tomorrow afternoon. A gathering, I said. They love those. They will come, Wolfe said. You will ensure it. And if they don't? He looked at me. They will. I stood up. I'll make the calls. Archie. Yes? Do not inform them of the bolt. I paused. You want to see who knows? I want to see who pretends not to, Wolfe said. Subtle, I said. I like it. You will, he said. It will reveal much. I went to the phone and started with Miss Vardis. She agreed without argument, which told me she had already decided this was out of her hands. Pike protested, then relented when I mentioned Wolfe by name. Mercer accepted with a tone that suggested curiosity. Kroll said he would attend. Dane said nothing for a moment, then said, I look forward to it. When I hung up, Wolfe was watching me. They'll be here, I said. Good, he said. Then tomorrow we will open a door that someone thought they had closed. Saul arrived before breakfast was finished, which meant Wolfe had either extended the invitation in a tone Saul respects or had implied urgency in a way that suggests money. Saul Panzer doesn't hurry for exercise. I briefed him in the office while Wolfe was upstairs with his orchids, communing with beings that at least have the courtesy to remain silent while he thinks. Bolt altered in advance, I said. Strike plate filed just enough to allow external manipulation. Key taken, door left bolted. Message built in. Saul nodded once. Kroll. First choice, I said. But Wolfe wants confirmation, not preference. What do you need? Kroll's movements for the last 2 weeks, I said, especially any time near Miss Vardis's building. His assistant mentioned a courier delivery 3 nights ago at 6:30. Find out who sent it and what was in it. Also, anyone he's been seeing regularly that doesn't appear on paper. Saul made a note without looking at it. And the others? Pike, Mercer, Dane, I said. Light touch. I want to know if any of them had reason to get into that apartment before the theft. Social calls, inspections, anything. Saul nodded again. Time. Wolfe wants them all here this afternoon, I said, so give me what you can before then. So the rest can follow. He went out without wasting words, which is one of his better qualities. I spent the next hour on the building staff at Miss Vardis's place. The doorman remembered me and didn't like me any better than before, but he answered questions when they were asked in a tone that suggested answers were expected. Cleaning service, I said. Who? When? How often? Twice a week, he said. Tuesday and Friday mornings. Same person? Usually, he said. A woman named Carla. Usually, I said, meaning not always. He shifted. Last week there was a substitute. Carla was sick. Name? I don't know, he said. She signed in. Let's see the log. He hesitated, then produced it. I flipped to the right page. Tuesday morning, 3 days before the theft. Entry for cleaning service. On signature that didn't match the one on the other days. Who let her up? I asked. I did, he said. She had the company badge. And you didn't think to ask why she was new. They send substitutes, he said. It happens. Sure, I said. Everything happens. That's the problem. Did she leave alone? Yes. Carrying anything? Cleaning supplies, he said. Same as always. Anyone see her on the floor? The woman across the hall mentioned someone, he said. Didn't think anything of it. Of course not, I said. Nothing to think. I got the cleaning company's name and left him with his routine intact and his confidence slightly dented. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe had returned from the plant rooms and was installed behind his desk, to looking as if he had already decided how the day should go and was merely waiting for the rest of us to catch up. Well, he said. Access, I said. Cleaning service. Substitute on Tuesday morning. Unknown woman. Signed in. Went up. Came down. No questions asked. That's our window for the bolt work. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Convenient. For someone who could arrange it, I said. Or impersonate it. Mr. Kroll could arrange access, Wolfe said. He could also perform the alteration himself. Or send someone, I said. Courier at 6:30 the night of the theft. Assistant didn't know the sender. Find out, Wolfe said. Saul is, I said. We'll have something before the party starts. Wolfe grunted. Good. The afternoon came in grey and steady, like a man who doesn't bother announcing himself. And I arranged the chairs in the office the way Wolfe prefers when he intends to disassemble people. Enough distance to keep them from feeling allied, enough proximity to keep them from escaping the conversation. Miss Vardis arrived first, composed, but with a tension in the shoulders that hadn't been there before. She took the red leather chair again, as if returning to a position already claimed. Pike came next, carrying his disapproval like a briefcase. He nodded to Wolfe, ignored me, and chose a seat that allowed him to watch everyone else without turning his head. Mercer arrived with a glance that took in the room and assigned values. She sat with an ease that wasn't relaxed so much as controlled. Kroll was on time, which I expected. He chose a chair slightly apart, not isolating himself, but not aligning either. Dane came last, so he didn't hurry, didn't apologize, and took his place as if the room had been waiting for him. When they were all seated, Wolfe looked at them in turn, saying nothing. He has a talent for silence that makes other people feel like they've missed a cue. Finally, he spoke. You have been summoned because an event has occurred which affects all of you. A key was removed from Miss Vardis's apartment. The door to the room in which it was kept was found secured in a manner that suggested impossibility. This was not an accident. No one spoke. That was good. It meant they were listening. Wolfe went on. The key in question opens a private vault at Belden House containing documents of interest to Mr. Dane and, by extension, to each of you. Pike stiffened slightly. Mercer's eyes flicked once toward him, then back to Wolfe. Kroll remained still. Dane watched. The removal of the key, Wolfe said, was executed with forethought. The appearance of impossibility was deliberate. It was intended to produce a reaction. And it did, Pike said. We are here. Yes, Wolfe said. You are here. That is the first effect. The second is more subtle. It introduces uncertainty into your arrangements. Arrangements? Mercer said. That is a broad term. It is a precise one, Wolfe said. Each of you has an interest in the contents of that vault. Each of you has reason to control access to it. That is an assumption, Kroll said. It is an inference, Wolfe corrected. Based on your roles. Dane spoke then, calmly. And your conclusion, Mr. Wolfe? My conclusion, Wolfe said, is that one of you orchestrated this event. There it was. No one moved. Even I didn't. Come in, I've heard him say worse. Wolfe continued. The method was not supernatural. The bolt on Miss Vardis's study door was altered in advance to allow it to be engaged from outside. I watched them as he said it. Pike frowned genuinely. Mercer's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. Kroll's gaze dropped for a fraction of a second, then returned. Dane remained still. There was access to the apartment prior to the theft, Wolfe said. A substitute from the cleaning service. This provided the opportunity to alter the mechanism. Miss Vardis turned her head slightly. I was not aware. You are now, Wolfe said. The question is who arranged that access. Silence again. It was getting crowded. Wolfe leaned back. Mr. Kroll, you possessed the knowledge to perform such an alteration. Kroll met his gaze. Knowledge is not guilt. Agreed, Wolfe said. But it is relevant. And motive, Kroll said. What motive would I have to create such a spectacle? To make yourself necessary, Wolfe said, by creating a problem only you can solve. Kroll shook his head slightly. That is a flattering theory. It is also incorrect. Is it? Wolfe said. You had a courier delivery the evening of the theft. Documents, I'm told. From whom? Kroll's expression didn't change, but something tightened. From a client. Which client? Wolfe asked. That is confidential. Of course, Wolfe said, but confidentiality has limits. Before Kroll could answer, Saul came in without knocking, which is his way of saying the information outranks the manners. He handed me a slip. I glanced at it, then passed it to Wolfe. Wolfe read it once, then looked up. The courier delivery, he said, originated from a cleaning service. That did it. Kroll didn't move, but the room did. Mercer's eyes went to him. Pike inhaled sharply. Miss Vardis went still. Wolfe's voice was quiet. You arranged for a substitute to enter Miss Vardis's apartment. You altered the bolt in advance. You returned 3 nights ago, took the key, and left the door secured to create the illusion of impossibility. Kroll's gaze held. You are constructing a narrative. I am describing events, Wolfe said. The narrative is yours. And if I deny it, Kroll said. Wolfe's eyes hardened. Then we proceed to the next element. The key was not used. Therefore, the objective was not immediate access to the vault. It was to create uncertainty and draw attention. To what? Dane asked. To the fact that your security is vulnerable, Wolfe said, and that someone, Mr. Kroll, can exploit that vulnerability at will. Kroll's mouth tightened. And you believe that benefits me? It does, Wolfe said. It positions you as indispensable. And if I say I had no need to position myself, Kroll said, that my work speaks for itself? Then I will say, Wolfe replied, that you misjudged the audience. The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It had weight, and somewhere in it, something was beginning to give. Kroll let the silence stretch just long enough to suggest he was considering whether it was worth breaking. Then he leaned back slightly, not in surrender, but in adjustment. "You've made a clean arrangement of pieces, Mr. Wolfe," he said. "It has elegance. Unfortunately, that it lacks necessity." Wolfe's eyes did not move. "Explain." "If I wished to demonstrate vulnerability," Kroll said, "I would not do so in a manner that risks exposure of my own methods. I would present a controlled failure, not an uncontrolled spectacle." "You assume you controlled this," Wolfe said. "I assume I would," Kroll replied. "That is the flaw," Wolfe said. "You assume too much." Kroll's gaze sharpened. "And you assume too little. You have identified the method. That is commendable. But you have not established exclusivity." "Meaning?" I said. "Meaning," Kroll said, "that anyone with sufficient knowledge could have performed the alteration." "That narrows the field," I said. "It doesn't widen it." "It widens it enough," he said. "You have focused on me because I fit your expectation of capability. That is not the same as proof." Wolfe nodded once. "Agreed. Which is why we proceed further." He shifted his gaze, not to Mercer or Pike, but to Miss Vardis. "Madame," he said, "when you engaged Mr. Kroll, did he have full access to your apartment?" "Yes," she said. "He inspected the locks and general security after the earlier incident." "The reappearing sketch," Wolfe said. "Yes. And, Mr. Pike," Wolfe continued, "you have also visited the apartment." "Once," Pike said stiffly. "For dinner." "Did you observe the study door?" "I did not examine it," Pike said. "Why would I?" "Indeed," Wolfe murmured. "And Miss Mercer, you have not been there?" "No," she said. "Mr. Dane?" "No," Dane said. Wolfe inclined his head slightly. "So the individuals with confirmed access prior to the incident are Miss Vardis herself, Mr. Pike, and Mr. Kroll. To the cleaning staff, of course, but their access is supervised and routine." "Except for the substitute," I said. "Yes," Wolfe said, "except for the substitute." He turned back to Kroll. "You arranged for that substitute." Kroll shook his head. "You have a courier record, nothing more. A cleaning service delivers supplies as well as personnel. You are inferring intent." "Correctly," Wolfe said. "Not exclusively," Kroll replied. "Others could have done the same." "Such as?" Wolfe asked. Kroll's eyes moved just once toward Mercer. It was quick, but it was there. Mercer saw it. "Careful," she said. "That's a direction you may not want to take." "I'm not taking it," Kroll said. "I'm acknowledging it." "Then let's acknowledge properly," Mercer said. "I did not arrange for anyone to enter that apartment. I had no reason to." "No reason?" I said. "You deal in outcomes. A little uncertainty in Belden House might create opportunity." "For whom?" she said. "For me. I acquire, Mr. Goodwin. I don't destabilize my own inventory." "Unless destabilization improves value," I said. "That is not how this works," she said. "Not at this level." Wolfe raised a hand slightly, and the room obeyed. "Enough. We will not descend into speculation without structure." He turned to Dane. "Mr. Dane, you are a man who values leverage. Would you create such a situation?" Dane regarded him calmly. "If I did, I would not do so clumsily." "Clumsy?" Wolfe said. "Yes," Dane said. "This has drawn attention too early. If the objective were leverage, it would be applied before being revealed." "That assumes patience," Wolfe said. "It assumes competence," Dane replied. Wolfe nodded. Then we are left with a paradox. The act required competence, but produced premature exposure. Which suggests, I said, either a mistake or a secondary objective. Precisely, Wolfe said. He leaned forward slightly, and the air shifted again. The key was taken, but not used. The illusion was created, and attention was directed here. Therefore, the act is incomplete. Incomplete, Pike said. What more could there be? Wolfe looked at him. A second move? As if on cue, the phone on my desk rang. I picked it up. Goodwin. It was Saul. Archie, you'll want this. The cleaning service, Carla's replacement, not on their roster. Meaning? I said. Meaning she wasn't sent by them. Someone inserted her. Description? Partial. Building log only has a signature. But I checked nearby shops, and a woman matching the description bought a small metal file that morning, paid cash. Anything else? Yeah, Saul said. She didn't come alone. Someone dropped her off. Black sedan, plates traced to a rental agency. Name. Rented under an alias, Saul said. But the credit card belongs to Gerald Pike. I looked at Wolfe. He was already watching me. Thanks, Saul, I said and hung up. Well, Wolfe said. Pike, I said. The substitute cleaner wasn't legit. She bought a file that morning, and the car that dropped her off was rented under Pike's card. The room changed, not gradually, but all at once. Pike went pale, then flushed. That is absurd, he said. I rented no such vehicle. Your card did, I said. Maybe it went for a walk. This is ridiculous, Pike snapped. I have no need for such theatrics. Wolfe's gaze fixed on him. No need? You value control above all. The presence of Mr. Dane's documents in your establishment places you at a disadvantage. You are custodian, not owner. That is my role, Pike said tightly. And a limiting one, Wolfe said. If the key were compromised, if the security were in question, your position weakens, unless you control the narrative. I did not, Pike began. You arranged access to the apartment, Wolfe said, cutting across him. You ensured the bolt could be manipulated. You intended to take the key and create uncertainty. For what? Pike demanded. To force a re-evaluation, Wolfe said. To bring matters into the open under your terms, to assert that Belden House is not merely a passive repository. That is nonsense, Pike said, but there was less force in it now. And yet, Wolfe said, you made an error. Pike's eyes flickered. What error? You underestimated the need for timing, Wolfe said. You created the illusion too soon, before you could use it. Pike shook his head. No, He stopped. That was the moment. Not the denial, but the interruption. Wolfe saw it too. You intended to use the key immediately, Wolfe said softly. To access the vault and alter its contents. That is outrageous, Pike said, but it came out thinner. But something prevented you, Wolfe continued. Something interrupted your plan. Pike's gaze dropped just for a fraction. What? Wolfe said. Silence. Mr. Pike, Wolfe said, you are a man who prefers control. You do not abandon a plan without cause. What happened? Pike's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. For a moment, he said nothing. Then quietly, the key was not where it should have been. That landed harder than anything else. Wolfe did not move. Explain. I returned to the apartment, Pike said, his voice controlled but strained. Later than intended. The door functioned as planned. The bolt engaged. I entered. I went to the cabinet. And, Wolfe said. The box was empty, Pike said. No one spoke. You're saying, I said, you didn't take the key. I'm saying, Pike said, that when I went to take it, it was already gone. The room went still in a different way now, not tension, but recalibration. Wolfe leaned back slowly. Then we have a second actor. Yes, Pike said. One who knew of your plan, Wolfe said. Yes. One who anticipated your move and acted before you. Pike nodded once. Wolfe's eyes moved, not to Kroll this time, but to Mercer. She met his gaze without flinching. You value outcomes, Wolfe said. I do, she said. And you understand timing, he said. Yes. And you were at dinner with Mr. Pike until 10:30, Wolfe said, which places you in proximity to his thinking, if not his actions. Be careful, she said. I am, Wolfe said. You had no need to alter the bolt. That work was done for you. You had only to anticipate its use. And take the key first, I said. Mercer's expression didn't change, but her eyes did. They sharpened, like a blade being recognized. You're building another narrative, she said. No, Wolfe said. I'm completing one. And your evidence? She asked. Wolfe's lips curved slightly, not in humor, but in satisfaction. Your hesitation, he said, when Mr. Goodwin asked if you knew why the key was taken. She didn't answer. You almost did, Wolfe said. Because you knew. You had already acted. And to what end? Dane asked quietly. Wolfe turned to him. To control the outcome. If Mr. Pike intended to use the key to alter the contents of the vault, Miss Mercer ensured that he could not. She took the key first. And then, Dane said. And then, Wolfe said, she waited. Mercer let the word hang there. Waited, as if testing whether Wolfe would fill the silence for her. He didn't. He never does when the silence is doing his work. Finally, she said, And what, Mr. Wolfe, do you imagine I was waiting for? For confirmation, Wolfe said. That Mr. Pike would act as anticipated. That he would attempt to use the key and fail. That his failure would expose his intent. Pike made a sound that was almost a laugh and failed halfway. This is grotesque, he said. And you are weaving conjecture into accusation. No, Wolfe said. I'm arranging fact into sequence. And where, Pike demanded, is the proof that I intended to alter the contents of that vault? Wolfe turned his head slightly toward me. Archie. I got up, went to my desk, and picked up the folder Wolfe had indicated earlier without looking. He had asked me to fetch it from the safe before the guests arrived, and I had done so without asking questions, which is another of my better qualities. I handed it to him. He opened it, removed a single sheet, and held it between two fingers. This, he said, is a draft inventory adjustment from Belden House. It proposes the temporary removal of one document from Mr. Dane's deposit for verification and reclassification. It bears your initials, Mr. Pike, though it was never filed. Pike went very still. That is an internal document. It is also unsigned, Wolfe said, and undated, which suggests it was prepared for use, not record. Pike's voice came out tight. It is standard procedure to prepare contingencies. Indeed, Wolfe said, but not to execute them without authorization. The presence of that draft indicates intent. It indicates consideration, Pike snapped. Nothing more. It indicates preparation, Wolfe corrected. Combined with your arrangement for access to Miss Vardis's apartment and the alteration of the bolt, it indicates a plan. Pike opened his mouth, then closed it. The argument he wanted wasn't there anymore. Wolfe shifted his gaze back to Mercer. You discovered this plan? Mercer's voice was level. I inferred it. From what? Wolfe asked. From Mr. Pike's behavior, she said. His increased attention to that particular deposit. His questions. His impatience. And you decided to intervene, Wolfe said. Yes, she said. How? Wolfe asked. By ensuring he could not proceed, she said. By taking the key first, Wolfe said. She inclined her head slightly. Yes. Pike turned to her, anger breaking through the control. You had no authority. I had judgment, she said, cutting across him, which you lacked. You interfered in matters beyond your role, Pike said. I prevented you from compromising the gallery, she said. And our client. Dane spoke then, softly. You took the key. And then, Mercer looked at him. I intended to assess the situation, to determine whether the documents had already been compromised in some way. And had they? He asked. No, she said. Then why not return the key? Pike demanded. Because by then, she said, it was no longer only about you. Wolfe nodded faintly. You recognized the opportunity. I recognized the instability, she said. The moment the bolt was altered, the system was already compromised. The key was only part of it. And so you kept it, Wolfe said, to control the next move. Yes, she said. Kroll spoke for the first time since the shift. You're assuming she had access that night. I am not assuming, Wolfe said. I am deducing. Ms. Mercer was with Mr. Pike until 10:30. She was therefore aware of his schedule. She knew when he would attempt to act. She could leave, proceed to the apartment, and arrive before him. Mercer didn't deny it. And you knew of the bolt, Wolfe continued, because Mr. Pike had arranged it, and whether he told you directly or you inferred it, you understood its purpose. I inferred enough, she said. And you acted, Wolfe said. You entered the apartment, used the prepared mechanism, took the key, and left the door secured. When Mr. Pike arrived later, he found the box empty. Pike's face had gone from pale to something tighter. You, he began, then stopped. Mercer didn't look at him. Yes. The word was quiet, but it landed with weight. No one spoke for a moment. Then Dane said, And the key? Mercer reached into her bag. That was the moment the room leaned forward, all of us, even Wolfe by a fraction. She placed a small brass key on the table between them. I have it, she said. Pike stared at it as if it might move. Kroll watched it as if measuring its implications. Miss Vardis looked at it as if seeing the end of a question she had not wanted to ask. Dane looked at it as if it were a number he had already calculated. Wolfe did not look at it. He looked at Mercer. You intended to return it, he said. Yes, she said. After I was certain. Certain of what? Wolfe asked. That the vault had not been accessed, she said. That the documents were intact. And now? Wolfe said. Now, she said. It is no longer my decision. Wolfe nodded once. Correct. He turned to Dane. Mr. Dane, your property has been secured, though by irregular means. You may wish to pursue legal remedy. Dane regarded Mercer for a long moment. And if I do not? That is your prerogative, Wolfe said. Dane's gaze shifted to Pike. And you? Pike did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was lower. Atu, I made an error. That is a mild description, Dane said. It is an accurate one, Pike said. And you, Dane said to Mercer. I corrected it, she said. Dane's mouth moved, not quite a smile. At a cost. Yes, she said. He looked at Wolfe. And your conclusion? My conclusion, Wolfe said, is that Mr. Pike initiated a plan to alter the contents of your vault. Ms. Mercer discovered and preempted that plan by taking the key. The method used to access the apartment was prepared in advance by Mr. Pike. The illusion of impossibility was incidental to his design, but served to obscure the mechanism. And Mr. Kroll? Dane asked. Mr. Kroll remains what he was, Wolfe said. A man who understands systems and their vulnerabilities. In this instance, he is merely instructive. Kroll inclined his head slightly. I prefer that to being accused. As do we all, Wolfe said. Dane looked at the key again, then at Mercer. You will return that to Miss Vardis. Mercer nodded once and slid the key across the table. Miss Vardis picked it up, her fingers steady now. "And the vault?" she asked. "You will open it," Dane said, "in my presence, and Mr. Wolfe's if he cares to attend." "I do not," Wolfe said. "My interest is concluded." Dane accepted that. Very well. He stood. The others followed, not because he led, but because the moment had shifted. Pike paused before leaving. He looked at Wolfe. "You have a method." "Yes," Wolfe said. "It is inconvenient," Pike said. "It is effective," Wolfe replied. Pike inclined his head, then went out. Mercer lingered a second longer. She met Wolfe's gaze. "You said I almost told Mr. Goodwin." "Yes," Wolfe said. "I would not have," she said. "I know," Wolfe said. She gave a small nod and followed the others. When the door closed, the room exhaled. I leaned back in my chair. "Well," I said. "No ghosts?" "No," Wolfe said. "Only humans. Far more troublesome." Fritz appeared in the doorway, as if summoned by the restoration of order. "Dinner," he said. Wolfe rose. At last. We went to the dining room, where the table was set with the kind of precision that makes errors feel unwelcome. Wolfe took his seat and regarded the dishes with approval. As he began, he said, "The appetite for control is the most dangerous of all. It disguises itself as prudence, but it is merely fear in formal attire." I cut into my portion. "And the cure?" "There is none," Wolfe said. "Only exposure." I nodded. "And dinner." He glanced at me. "That, Archie, is the only reliable remedy." I took a bite and decided he was right about that, if not about everything else. Dinner did what dinner always does in that house. It restored order to things that had been allowed to wander. Wolfe ate with the attention he gives to all serious matters, which is complete and undistracted. I ate with the satisfaction of a man who had spent the day watching people try to outthink themselves and failing in interesting ways. Afterward, we went back to the office. Wolfe settled into his chair as if the case had never disturbed it, which, in a sense, it hadn't. The brownstone absorbs disruption the way a bank absorbs deposits, carefully and without changing its structure. "Well," I said, "that was tidy. Almost too tidy." "There is nothing excessive in clarity," Wolfe said. "No," I said. "No, but there's often something left on the table. Pike had a plan, Mercer stopped him, Kroll stayed clean, Dane got his leverage back, and Miss Vardis got her key. Everyone walks away with something." "Not quite," Wolfe said. I waited. "Mr. Pike does not walk away with his position intact," Wolfe said, "nor with his illusion of control. That is not nothing." "Fair," I said. "And Mercer?" "She acquires something less tangible," Wolfe said. "Influence. By fixing a problem she didn't create," I said. "By exploiting one she recognized," Wolfe corrected. "And Dane," I said. "Retains his advantage," Wolfe said, "though he has been reminded that it is not absolute." I nodded. "And Miss Vardis?" "Learns," Wolfe said, "that certainty is a luxury she cannot afford." I smiled. "You're generous tonight." "I am accurate," Wolfe said. Then I got up and went to my desk, shuffled a few papers, then turned back. "There's one thing," I said. "The message." Wolfe looked at me. "Whoever set that bolt, Pike, didn't intend to make it look impossible," I said. "That was just a side effect. But Mercer used it. She let it stand." "Yes," Wolfe said. "So the message wasn't just, 'I can do this,'" I said. "It became, 'Something is wrong and you don't know what.'" "Precisely," Wolfe said. "And that uncertainty forced movement." "Which brought them all here," I said. "And allowed resolution," Wolfe said. I leaned against the desk. "So in the end, the door that opened from inside didn't matter." Wolfe's eyes half closed. "On the contrary, Archie, it was essential." "How?" I said. It transformed a simple act of theft into a problem of intellect, Wolfe said. Without that transformation, Miss Vardis would have replaced the lock, tightened her procedures, and the underlying conflict would have remained concealed. And Pike might have tried again, I said. Yes, Wolfe said, and perhaps succeeded. I nodded slowly. So the trick forced the truth out into the open. Yes, Wolfe said, as such devices often do. I considered that. Funny thing, I said. The only honest part of the whole business was the lie. Wolfe opened his eyes. Not a lie, he said. An exaggeration. Of what? Of human capability, Wolfe said. We are always eager to believe in impossibility when it flatters our sense of mystery. It saves us the trouble of understanding. And you don't like being saved trouble, I said. I despise it, Wolfe said. I grinned. I've noticed. There was a pause, comfortable this time, and the kind that comes after a job is done and the pieces have been put away. Do you think Mercer will keep that influence? I asked. For a time, Wolfe said, until she encounters someone more adept. And Pike? He will either learn or depart, Wolfe said. Most likely the latter. And Kroll? We'll continue to advise, Wolfe said. With slightly less arrogance, one hopes. And Dane? Wolfe's mouth moved a fraction. We'll continue to collect leverage. It is his nature. And us, I said. Wolfe looked at me. We will dine, I laughed. I meant professionally. We have been paid, Wolfe said. That suffices. Always back to appetite, I said. Always, Wolfe said. I went to the window and looked out at the street. The rain had finally stopped arguing, and the pavement was settling into something that resembled peace, and people moved past, each with their own small mysteries, most of them less interesting than the one we had just finished, and none of them likely to involve a door that behaved badly. You know, I said, if Brenner hadn't noticed that filing on the strike plate, this could have gone a different way. Yes, Wolfe said, and if the substitute cleaner hadn't been sloppy enough to get seen, we might not have found Pike. Yes, Wolfe said again, and if Mercer had been a second slower. But she was not, Wolfe said, cutting me off gently. Events occur as they occur, Archie. Our task is not to speculate on alternatives, but to understand the sequence that exists. Still, I said, it's a lot of small things lining up. Most outcomes are, Wolfe said. Large causes are rare, and it is the accumulation of minor decisions that produces significance. I turned back. You're getting philosophical. I am always philosophical, Wolfe said. You merely notice it when you are tired. That's fair, I said. I went back to my chair and sat down. So what's the lesson? Wolfe considered that, then said that the desire to control invites disruption, that those who attempt to manipulate systems often underestimate the intelligence of others, and that, in the end, clarity is achieved not by force, but by arrangement. Arrangement, I said. You like that word. It is accurate, Wolfe said. I nodded. And the door? Wolfe's eyes closed again, just a fraction. A door, he said, is only as honest as the hand that sets it. I let that sit a moment, then said, I'll remember that next time one opens by itself. Do not be absurd, Wolfe said. Doors do not open by themselves. I grinned. Tell that to Miss Vardis. He didn't answer, which meant he had decided the conversation was complete. I picked up a pencil, tapped it once on the desk, and made a note to check on Belden House in a week or two. Not because I expected another disappearing key, but because when people learn something about themselves, they usually try to forget it. And sometimes they need a reminder. Outside, the city kept moving as it always does, carrying its secrets along until someone like Wolfe decides they're worth the trouble. As for me, I leaned back, stretched my legs, and decided that for one evening at least, the only thing I wanted opening from the inside was a bottle.